number 2 is you need to do a training on that webinar to start 2020 the strongest possible way. And here's the entire assignment. The entire assignment is for every person who watches that webinar to start to send 100 text messages to set up an exposure that day. If you do that webinar, let's say at 10 a.m., you tell them before you go to sleep, you need to send 100 text messages inviting people to either an event or a third-party tool to check out what you have, to see how many appointments you can set up, to see how many exposures you can set up. Because if you get 100 people to do that, you're going to set up at least 50 exposures. 50 out of 100 will say, yeah, sure. I'll get together for coffee. Yeah, sure. I'll take a look at your video. Yeah, sure. I'll try your product. Yeah, sure. 50 out of 100. Now, some of you have big organizations. Let's say you have 100 people that join your webinar, 100. And they send those 100 text messages. You're going to have to train their butts off in order to be able to do that. You're going to have to inspire them. You're going to have to tell them the benefit. You're going to have to get past their fear. You're going to have to empower them. You're going to have to give them scripts. You're going to have to do everything you need to do in order to be able to make that happen. But if you get 100 people to do it in that first part of January, you will schedule 5,000 exposures for the month of January. Just with 100. If you have 1,000, it's what? 500,000? No. Is that right? It's a lot. Some of you have companies. If you have a company, I would get every single person in your company onto that thing. And I would do the training, encourage them, bring in the leadership, do whatever. And if you got 50,000 people to get onto a live or onto some sort of a platform to be able to get this, and it's part of a big event to start the year, and 50,000 people send out 100 text messages, and 50 out of the 100 set up an exposure, what is 50,000 times 50? Somebody do the math for me. 2.5 million exposures in January. A burst of energy. Something everybody can do. Training in order to be able to help them do it. So inviting has changed. And I will tell you, some smart people do that little burst, the micro burst. If you got a little team, here's what I would do if you have a little team. You're not a company and you're not a huge leader. Let's say you got 10 people on your team. Get those 10 people together on January 2nd in your living room if they live in your local town, on Skype if they're outside of the town, and sit there with them for 2-3 hours until they send their 100 messages. And you will have the best month you've ever had in your entire career just from that one little campaign, that one little system. I have leaders that I've trained this concept that literally go from market to market, living room after living room, and all they do is have little competitions so you can send the most text messages, so you can schedule the most appointments over the course of 2-3 hours. They bring in food, they have something to drink, and they schedule all of that stuff. This is something that you can do. All right, so that's skill number 2.